thank you. Welcome for joining us for how to boost inclusion and engagement with cognitive diversity with an introduction to whole brain thinking. As Kimberly mentioned, you're kind of getting two Kims, so we're Kim and Kim. Not much diversity there, unfortunately. But we have Kimberly Sullivan today. She's our VP of Talent at Herrmann. And hello, I am Kim White. I am the organizational consultant and organizational psychologist at Herrmann. We're going to walk you through first an icebreaker activity, so a little bit of thinking about ourselves and inclusion and getting to know each other a little bit. And then we're going to talk about why inclusion matters. So Kimberly's going to talk to you about inclusion, how we define it, and cognitive diversity and whole brain thinking. I'm going to start to paint this picture for you of using Miro to amplify inclusion. And we're going to do a big group activity. That's become one of our favorite ways to sort of ice break and get to know each other and really build that safety for having inclusive conversations. And then we're going to wrap up. So this is going to be pretty fast moving, but you're all going to be involved with us on the journey. So to start out, what we're going to ask you to do is, and I think, have we put the link to this board in the chat so that everybody is with us? Do we have that? Not, I can throw it in there. Okay, so there's the link to our board. So if you can join us on the board while I explain what we're going to do here. So you see in front of you some phrases. And what we want you to do is think about when it comes to inclusion and what you need to feel included. So this is you. This is not necessarily, your company or your team, but this is you personally. What do you really need to feel or have to feel included? So we're going to give you a few minutes. We're going to read through all the words on the screen. And you can take 3 to 4 dots, and you're going to put those dots next to those phrases that are things that you really need to feel included. So I'll demo here for you. You're going to click down on dot and then drag it. So keep your mouse down and then drag it next to a word. You can put it before or you can put it after. And we'll give you a few minutes to do that. There are dots on either side of the board. So I can see people over there. So kind of just grab one.
Dots on dots.
I love seeing people go.
Yeah, I know. It's so neat.
Seeing that energy. And I am going to give us some time here. Less than 1 minute to get your dots placed.
Just watching.
It's sort of mesmerizing watching
Yeah.
people on the board.
Great. All right, just around 15 seconds remaining. Also, we appreciate the Miro tips. This is what a great part about Distributed is sharing our Miro knowledge with one another. So thanks for that in the chat.
All right, so looks like everybody got their dots on there, and I think you probably notice what I notice on this is that we all need different things. So it looks like, there's some areas can have more dots than others, but it's very individual what we need. And kind of remember as you look at this before we move on to the next slide, think about where and remember where you put your dots, so kind of what color was behind where you put your dots, and that's going to become a little more relevant as we continue our conversation. So I'm going to pass it on to Kimberly now, who's going to talk about how we define inclusion and how we really combine that with whole brain thinking.
Yes, thank you, Kim. And for those in the chat who experienced delays on their board or couldn't participate, please know you can go back to that section of the board and continue to participate, but there's more interaction coming. So thank you to all those who were able to participate in that. And it was really great being able to see all those dots move around. So let's just talk about inclusion for a moment. So what is inclusion? Inclusion is the idea of feeling seen, the living experience. It's that practice or policy of providing equal access and opportunities to resources for those who might otherwise be excluded or marginalized. It's creating that psychological safety and reducing barriers for engagement for all. So let's chat about engagement just slightly. So let's look at this statistic. Employees who feel their voices heard are 4.6 times more likely to feel empowered to perform their best work. Now, here's the shocking part about this statistic. This was before the pandemic. And if we all reflect on what the last year and a half has been like for our organizations, we have all become more aware of the need to help our team members feel empowered and engaged in the organization. So we can only assume that this number is even stronger. And the importance of inclusion and engagement just will continue to grow. And the challenging piece is hybrid workforces do make that a little bit more challenging. While there are so many positives about where the workplace is going in terms of flexibility and hybrid work, engagement matters more than ever as we move to a potentially more distributed workforce model. And it is more challenging than ever to make sure that you're providing that space so that every team member feels like they can be heard and that they can be included in situations. And one way to accelerate that is through cognitive diversity, which is a degree of different thinking we all bring to the table. And a way to accelerate engagement is to make sure everyone feels fully included through understanding your team's cognitive diversity. And so I'm not sure how many of you have worked within understanding your team's cognitive diversity before, but that's what we do here at Herrmann. And it's something that's really important to us, is understanding that we all think differently. And at Herrmann, we define cognitive diversity through our whole brain thinking model. So this is our whole brain model. If any of you are familiar with it, please comment in the chat. And for those who aren't, we're going to go through it right now. But the whole brain model was developed by Ned Herrmann, who is the head of management education at GE, General Electric. Ned combined the study of neuroscience with workplace dynamics in an effort to uncover why people learned and thought in different ways. And I'm sure many of you have been in situations where you were actually forced to think in a specific way because of leaders. And what we're trying to do is actually help you understand how your teams naturally think so that you can create workspaces for all. So the model is comprised of the 4 quadrants, and they are color coordinated. We have the blue, the analytical thinking, the green, which is the structural thinking, the practical, the detailed, the linear, the red, which is that relational thinking, the intuitive, the communicative, and the yellow, which is that experimental thinking, which is that big picture and that inventive thinking. And these 4 quadrants serve as a metaphor that emphasize that we are all special yet interconnected. And the whole brain thinking, the whole of how you can think, the nature of how we think is really important. We all have styles, we all lean into specific quadrants, but we all have a little bit of each of these. And where you lean is your natural thinking style, and understanding that for your team is really important. So let's go back to that prompt for this session, which was, have you ever felt not truly understood? More than likely, that was a thinking preferences thing. You were interacting with someone who naturally thinks very differently than you. And imagine if you knew that. Imagine if you had that understanding, how much more, it's much more natural to have communication and interaction as an organization if you have that general understanding. And all these things we're talking about engagement-wise and making sure people can feel seen and understood becomes so much more clear. So I'm going to pass it off to Kim to go into this on how this model relates to inclusion and engagement even deeper.
So when we're working remotely, as Kimberly said, it can just really exacerbate that feeling of isolation or feeling of not being included. And of course, that's most likely unintentional. But when we start to look at inclusion through the lens of whole brain thinking and recognizing that we all have those different preferences, we can start to just be more intentional about how we bring people into a conversation or a collaboration. And when we think about what we need and you think about where you put your dots in that icebreaker activity, if you're an analytical thinker, you're going to need that research, analysis, data, and charts. If you're a structural thinker, you're going to want to know what's the plan, what are the steps, do we know the details, how are we organizing our work? If we're more of a relational thinker, then we're going to be thinking about feelings. How am I feeling? How are other people feeling? Are we including everyone? Are we sharing values? Do we have shared values, common goals? How are we collaborating? And if you're that yellow quadrant thinker, experimental thinker, you want that, that visual of what's going on. You want some room to play and experiment. You might want to be able to kind of mind map and think through your thinking. You want that kind of big picture overview or summary. And our database shows that most people actually have a preference for 2 or 3 of these. Now, Kimberly said we can all think in all of these styles, and that's true. As functioning adults, we have to think in all of these ways, but we have some ways that we prefer more than others, and those ways just take less energy from us. And according to our database, most people have 2 to 3 preferences. We do have less than 5% who have a single preference, but so we're all some of these. And again, the value of that is that we can think about everybody having different needs. And when we go to collaborate in our Miro space, are we providing a space and an opportunity for everybody to be included? So let's look at that now from the whole brain thinking lens. Wonderfully, excitingly, and super cool is the fact that Miro is already built to be inclusive. And when I first mapped this out, I just got so many chills. Like, this is so cool. No wonder I love Miro so much. So for our analytical or blue quadrant thinkers, Miro has tables and charts. Voting, so voting is a way to measure. And then just the boards themselves allow for analysis, for research, for looking into what's going on and digging deeper. For our B quadrant or our green quadrant structural thinkers, those people who like organization and planning, Miro has templates. So pre-organized, like what's better than that? So you just download a template and get going. There's also frames, so you can organize your own information in any way you want. there's wireframes. So we can start to build a product or build a design in a very structural way using the wireframes tool. Can also connect to Jira. So if you use Jira, kind of all your organization is in Jira, you can pull Jira right into your project board and everything is right there, nice and organized for you. You can also use story mapping. One of my favorites, a Kanban board. So right in my project board, I'll have, what do we need to do? What are we doing? What have we completed? So it really appeals to that organizational thinker. In the red quadrant or relational thinkers, Miro really adds that place to have collaboration, right? I mean, this is why we've so depended on Miro at Herrmann during the pandemic, but Herrmann is actually virtual already. So we've always been, since I've been at Herrmann, we've been a virtual company. And we just really have come to go to Miro as our place to collaborate because we can comment for somebody to go take a look at something that we're thinking about. We can tag somebody. We really want to make sure that they look at something and give feedback. We can use voting this time as a way for that person to have a voice. So not so much about the measurement in that blue quadrant, but more about just being able to speak up and weigh in and say how you feel about something. And we can also play music like we just did, because music is in that relational quadrant. So it really provides that safe space where we can come, we can use whatever tools we're comfortable with, and we can communicate synchronously or asynchronously. We can collaborate, we can be there on our own. It really provides that way for us to interact comfortably. And finally, in that yellow quadrant for experimental thinking, which is kind of where I live and why I love Miro, is you can just go with a blank board. So kind of the opposite of that structural thinking need where we can use templates. For that experimental thinker, you can do whatever you want. You can start with a blank board. You can use mind mapping tools. D quadrant thinkers or yellow quadrant thinkers are very visual. So we can use the icon sets, or if we're really brave and good at art, we can do our own drawings and use the different colors and shapes and different sticky notes. And finally, we can do videos, or we can bring images onto the board. So it really provides something for everyone. And it also, provides that another part of our model that we haven't really talked about yet, which is the introversion and extroversion. It's great for introverts. You can come into the board by yourself. You can read quietly. You can comment to somebody else. Or you can come in, if you're more extroverted, you can collaborate real time. You can work in the moment. You can have your camera off and be working on a board. You can have your camera on. So it really provides that something for everyone that's really going to encourage inclusion and engagement and make everybody feel welcome in the space, which is going to help us, when we get to those really tough conversations sometimes, having that trust that we've already built and having built that psychologically safe space is really good foundational work or groundwork for helping people feel comfortable. So what we're going to do next, now that you've sort of seen how we can use all the different Miro tools to be whole-brained, we're going to walk you through something that we're doing at Herrmann right now as a way to get people engaged and a way to encourage, that inclusive feeling and give everybody that chance to share in the way that's comfortable to them. We are using this board, and what we're going to do first, and I don't know if we have Annie back yet. If not, I will wing it. But we're going to walk you through how to use the Miro board just really quickly. I feel like we had some good engagement earlier, so we may be okay, but always want to make sure that we go through some of the basics in case we have some people who are newer to the Miro board. So we're just going to go over the things that you're going to be using. So there's, of course, lots of things to do, things that I don't even know how to do in Miro. But we're going to, you can use the Control D or Command D to duplicate. Now, hopefully you won't need to duplicate because we've created lots of little tools for you to use so that you won't hopefully have to do that. And we'll be keeping an eye, and if you need it, we'll be doing some of the duplication for you. You can also, to move things, you're going to want to click once and then drag. And when you want to type into a sticky note, just click twice into that sticky note. And a little practice goes a long way. So don't be shy if you want to drag a sticky note somewhere on the side of the board and practice. If you're feeling less comfortable, you can do that. We also have to move yourself around, which is always good to know on the Miro board. You can see up here on the left, we have this little arrow. And when you're on the arrow, you're going to move things. So see how I just moved that letter there? When you're on the hand, we call this pan. And pan lets you move around. And what you have to do is just click down. So think about like you're sticking your hand to something and you're moving it. So you're just going to stick down and move. And that'll move the board for you. It won't move it for everyone else. We're all seeing me move it because I'm in presentation mode, but you should be fine. You can move yourself around that way and it won't bother anybody else. And then finally, everybody's favorite Command Z or Control Z will help you undo whatever you just did. So if you do something like move the whole board, and it's probably happened to all of us, no worries. This is how we learn. Just hit the Command Z or Control Z, undo it, and it'll put it back to the way it was. And if you really get stuck and need help, please just drop into the chat and we can help you out.
And the other fun thing that's going on in the chat is other tips and tricks. So that's fantastic. And they've been happening throughout the entire session. So we're all learning from one another. So other fun tips and tricks, please continue to drop those into the chat. That is fantastic.
And help your fellow participants if you see somebody struggling and they help them out.
Or if you are struggling, yeah, let us know within the chat. And other people may help you or will help you.
My favorite thing to do is just grab a sticky, put it right next to the person who's struggling and say, here's what you need to do. Because we can always communicate with each other through the board.
Oh yeah, wonderful.
Okay, so let's get on to our activity. So this is obviously a globe and we saw how global this group is today, which is awesome. And what we'd like you to do is introduce yourself by giving us a little whole brain walk around of where you are. So you're going to say hello, essentially, by using these pre-made cards that we have created for you. And there's a bunch here on the board, and there's some to kind of the side and the bottom of the board. And we'll keep an eye for you. What you're going to do is walk around, and in the top here, you can double click and you can add your city, your province, your state, your country, whatever you want to share. And then we've walked this around from a whole brain perspective. So what are the statistics or data about where you are in the blue quadrant, in the green quadrant, some location, maybe what big city you're close to, your longitude, latitude, a fun fact, customs, whatever you want to share. In the red quadrant, what are some of the famous people, or what are the people like? What are some of your leaders? Maybe the music in your area. And then finally in that yellow experimental quadrant, maybe some images that you can just go grab off the web really quick and bring back. We don't have a lot of time left, so we probably won't have time for you to fill out the whole card during this session, but we encourage you to finish this whenever you'd like, because this board will be available. But just pick one or two of those areas that you would like to share. You can drag the card, and I see some people are already going at it, which is awesome. So grab a card. Some cards already have the prompts for you to help you out. Some cards are blank. Again, this is about doing what's comfortable for you. So grab whatever card you'd like. And we're going to give you, I think, about 7 minutes or so here to do that. And we'll give you some music, and please drop in the chat if you need some help.
And again, it's just so neat watching this all play out. Kim, were you able to select which track you wanted during the timer?
Yes, you can pick. So I pre-screened these yesterday for danceability.
I'm learning too. Very cool. I'm not sure where it's eventually landing, but the photos of the hell skiing, that's awesome. we got some adventurous activities in some of these locations. So I'll jump in on the images question. What I found really easy is you can just copy paste images in, which works really well. You can save and then copy them, paste them in. Alexis or Kim, do you have any other tips and tricks, or anyone else on the call have ways that they best utilize image additions?
I'd say just go with the flow of that moment where you drop in a photo and it takes up the whole board and you're embarrassed and then you have to shrink it down. That's just all part of the process. Maybe you'll upload and you're not sure where it is. You will find it. It's all the magic of Miro.
And sometimes the reverse happens and your image is really teeny tiny.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we've been doing as we've been building this board at Herrmann is I go in occasionally and rescue people's abandoned photos and make them bigger because they lost track of it. Yeah, it's you can probably tell what kind of thinker I am. I tend not to mind when people mess up the board or something goes wrong because that's how you learn to use the tool.
Also, one that's seeing the fall foliage. That's where I grew up. That's me. Yes, this goes. What's happening? All right, so let's have a little under 2 minutes left. And again, as Kim mentioned, you don't have to fill in everything, but it's really exciting to see this all play out in real time in this session for us to learn more about where each of us are from. And as Kim mentioned, we have been playing with this internally at Herrmann as a way to celebrate our global diversity, to have people be able to share their own story about where they are from. Oh, I love it. Someone just embraced the big picture, sizing it down. Good job, everyone. Embrace the big picture, sizing it down. Wow, this is so fantastic, you guys. We have some great Miro users. We were like, are people gonna put it directly over where they live? Are they gonna use lines? Like we didn't put exact instructions behind us. This is so neat to see. So I was very lucky to go to South Africa, and there is a street in Johannesburg where 2 Nobel Prize winners lived like just a few feet from each other. It's Nelson Mandela's house. South African Nobel Prize winners. Very cool. So yeah, if you're all done with yours, you can start looking around, right? Start learning about other places. And that's the fun of all of this is
Okay, so we're gonna end this, but please continue. It seems like people made really good progress, which is great.
yeah. Great job, everyone. And there's a little bit of feedback noise, Kim. I think it's from the timer, so because the music. Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. So, Alexis, you're going to have to let me know if we do have the potential to unmute people on the line. Is that a potential? All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Great.
Would you like me to update the security setting now?
Yeah, if we have some volunteers, what we'd love to do is have people brag about where they are from and share their information with the group. This is what we've been experimenting with in Herrmann in our sessions, is people sharing their information in their own words. So if you are willing to, we can use the hand raise function, and Alexis, as our support here, can help call on someone to share their information about where they are from. So I see we had Reese raise their hand.
Yes.
Awesome.
Great. Howdy. You pronounced my name right. Thank you. I get called Grace a lot. So I am in sunny Rifle, Colorado. Yes, like the gun. And it is on the western slope of the Rockies. I'm somewhat new to the area, but I may be more excited about it than anywhere else I've lived. So we've got a ton of native Spanish speakers out here. We have Glenwood Canyon, which is the image section of things that is one of the most beautiful places on continental US for sure. Lost count of the number of landslides we had this summer. It's a fun mountain game to play, and everyone loves dogs here, which I think is really great and correct.
Awesome. Wonderful. So for those who are on the board, make sure to dive into that specific area of the US to see Reese's specific information. I saw we had some other hands raised, which is fantastic. So if you could go call on whoever is next in line, Alexis.
Yeah, we've got Louise.
Hey everyone, sorry my camera's not working right now, but I hope you'll bear with me with that. But yeah, I'm just here to present where I was born and raised, London, England. It's a great city, 9 million people. Weather is always changing and it gets worse and worse now. I mean, every 2 hours it might be sunny, it might be raining, or it might be raining all day, as the cliche is actually quite true. And yeah, we don't have that many foods that are like native to us, but you know, everyone knows the fish and chips and cream teas. And if you don't know what cream tea is, it's basically, I guess another word for it is a high tea. And it's just, you know, you have scones, which are kind of like a sweet thing which you can have with cream and jam. And then there's also you know, sandwiches and all these things like that. Basically, great city. I recommend you come visit. There's loads of cool places to see, and it's a really diverse place. So, yeah.
Awesome, wonderful. And maybe we have time for one more. Do we have one more person to raise their hand? I saw we had a couple.
Yeah, Barbara.
Oh, Barbara, wonderful.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barbara, and I am in the Cleveland area, actually Nelson Township. Hi, Kimberly. I was looking at your profile. So Cleveland Township is in the middle of Amish country. I am not Amish, though, but we have the horse and buggies running my internet right now. And if you look at my picture, I have a goat, and her name is Goat, and she likes to eat sunflowers. So that's what I added there, because we got a lot of nature going on here. And the only other thing that I have to say is Cleveland is the heart of rock and roll. So so that's the music around here. Great, thanks.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome, Barbara. And thank you for all of you sharing. And for the rest of you, dig in, look at everyone else's information, learn about some of these other spaces around the world firsthand from those who live there, which is why we're so excited by this global diversity on this call. As this is something we really want to make sure we're celebrating within Herrmann as we continue to add to our team. So this is a great example of a way you can utilize Miro where everyone can feel included and engaged from wherever they are in the world. And another great thing about Miro is at whatever time they're on in the world, because these activities allow people to join in whatever time zone also makes sense for them. So we're going to move toward wrap up. And so we just want to make sure to say thank you to you all for joining us today and for the engagement on this call. It's been fantastic. It's so neat seeing the Miro board happen in real time. So thank you in multiple different languages across the world for joining us for this session today. We also do have a little bit of a takeaway. So we want to make sure you all do have access to the whole brain model, and to not specifically just the whole brain model, but also the whole brain model and how Miro helps support whole brain thinking. So if you visit this link found here on the Miro board, and we're also going to drop it into chat, you can download that directly to help showcase how Miro can be a inclusive and engaging and whole brain tool for your organization. So you'll have direct link to that takeaway. And we want to just make sure to take a moment to say thank you. And if there are any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. And Kim might mention she was having a little bit of feedback on her computer, but I do want to open up to her if there's anything else she wants to add.
No, just echoing, thank you for your time. And we do have a few minutes. So if you have any questions about whole brain thinking, about how we combine it with Miro, again, being a virtual company for many years, we had some kind of head start experience on the pandemic. So if there's any questions you have, you can stick around for a few minutes and answer those.
Definitely. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for all the kind words in the chat. Yeah, if there are any questions. Part of whole brain thinking is an assessment called the Herrmann Brain Dominance Instrument, or the HBDI. Some of you may have heard it or even used it before. So that does assess people's thinking preferences. While we didn't have time to go through that specifically today, that is part of whole brain thinking, is the initial assessment to understand where your thinking preferences lie. And that also is kind of the beginning entry to the magic of understanding yourself, which then allows you to help understand others. Yeah, any other questions? Feel free to drop in the chat or come off mute. Yes, we do workshops. Herrmann does quite a few workshops. So if there's a specific problem that your organization is currently working through that whole brain thinking could help with, that is part of what we do, is help you harness the cognitive diversity within your organization, and that can be through workshop form as well. Yeah, and Barbara, if you're interested in learning more, you can feel free to engage with the giveaway tool, and then you can also engage with us directly.
Cool, thanks. I was just, I do the same thing, so that's why I was interested how you guys do it, but I'll let other people ask questions.
So I mean, the main delivery form is we have a platform that helps you understand your thinking, as well as the thinking of others and the thinking of your teams. But then we also do have additional services, including workshops and professional services support.
In-person stuff. Have you guys started back again with in-person?
We transitioned significantly to virtual.
Okay.
And I think just like the rest of the world, as comfort is there, we are moving back toward meeting the needs of our clients, how they need their specific needs. But oh yes, we moved highly virtual last year. Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing
and quickly.
Yes, right. That was it. It was an iterative year. Yes, we do work with education organizations. Mm-hmm.
So we had a question in the chat that I thought was really interesting, do we have a favorite way, for example, of translating? And I want to give a personal one, because it's actually how I ended up doing my first Miro presentation. And that is, we had a really big project that had been in the wings for a long time, and nobody could visualize it. It felt really scary because it was so big and so complex. And one Saturday afternoon, I just started putting it on a Miro board, because I had the picture in my head, but I couldn't quite communicate it in ways that people could understand and really buy into it. So I started just building it in a Miro board. And as soon as I did that, everybody got it. It's like light bulbs went off and people started getting excited about it. And we're actually in the middle of launching it. And I think it launches tomorrow. So that big thing that nobody could wrap their head around, it was really facilitated by Miro. If I hadn't put it in a board and started to give those details and give those visualization and start to tell that story, I don't think anybody would have bought into it. So that's my favorite story.
Yeah, and the collaborative nature allows you to, right? So we all tend to think in our natural, well, we all tend to think in our thinking preferences, obviously, but some of that comes through in our in how we work through problems. So Miro allows for that collaboration for someone to ask questions or get additional clarity where you may have not put it quite yet, right? And so that's where like thinking partnerships can come into play, where someone can come in and work on something with you within a highly collaborative tool that helps you lean into those other preferences and helps you stretch your own thinking too, which is really powerful. Yeah, any other questions? Well, great, because we are right at time. Thank you all for joining us. We are so grateful. And again, the board will be open. Alexis, you can cut me off if I'm not saying the right thing. but the board will be open for you to go back in and look at all this information on our map we all created together to learn about different places all around the world. And I know that's where I'll be diving in after. Make sure to follow the link to get the giveaway for after the session. And it was just such a pleasure meeting you all and spending this time with you all. Thank you so much.